sound of the cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and he was playing just there the Morricone's Brian Palmer Suite, the theme from Casualties of War. And that brings us nicely into our film segment now with Howard Elias, who's joining me here on the line. Howard, how are you this morning?
Good. I'm not on the line. I'm sitting right next to you. Come
That's
close.
right.
Come close to me because we're on Facebook Live. We're on my page, Howard for Film, Howard FOR Film. So if you want to see what Leanne looks like, come take a look.
Well, nice to have you in the studio
Thank you.
once again,
Yeah.
and talk about many films, I believe, including the latest release, Crazy Rich Asians. But what film would you like to talk about first?
Well, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. August is a month when it's a low time for movie attendance. I guess there's a lot of options available for people in August, or people are on vacation. Talking Hollywood or America generally. I don't think they really care about us out here. So this is a time when distributors sort of dump whatever sitting around in their collection, because coming in September we're starting to get the pre-awards hyped films, the films that are going to be up for awards in the next few months, in the Toronto International Film Festival starting in September. So then we start getting these big name, big budget films. So that's what August is sort of the dump month. But there are a few gems, which I'll eventually get to this morning. But first, let's talk about the clunkers. The first one I'm going to talk about is a Japanese film which opens today called Sakura Garden in the North, or in Japanese called Kito no Sakura Mori, direct translation. And I'm going to talk about it first because the music that you chose by Fluke really fits with this movie. I'm amazed at how well it fit. It makes me wonder if maybe this music was chosen for the movie. I don't know, because it sounded really good. So kudos.
Sad movie or
yeah,
tragic movie?
Yeah,
or?
it's a wartime melodrama, but it starts in 1945 and then goes up to 1971.
Right.
So the story is, as I said, opens in August 1945. And although Hiroshima and Nagasaki have just been destroyed by atom bombs, the war is a world away for the Azure family and their close-knit Japanese community on Sakhalin Island. You know that before the war, Sakhalin was part of Japan. Did you know that? Yeah, and then the Russians invaded and took it. I guess I think they took it back. I don't know if maybe the Russians had it before 1917 and then the Japanese took it and the Russians took it back. I don't know. I can't remember the whole history. So this is really what this story is about, is that the Russians came in 1945. They invaded the island of Sakhalin, and the Japanese who were living there fled for their lives. Now, for the Azure family, the patriarch Tokujiro, played by Hiroshi Abe, who we recently saw in the films The Crimes That Bind, he decides to stay and fight, and he tells his wife Tetsu, played by 4-time Japanese Academy Award Best Actress, or Japanese Academy Best Actress Award winner, Sayuri Yoshinaga, who we saw last year in Nagasaki, Memories of My Son. He tells her to take their 2 sons, Seitaro and Shujiro, and flee with the rest of the village to Hokkaido, leaving behind their 2 young cherry trees that have just begun to blossom for the very first time. Now, it's both an arduous journey and it's a perilous journey for Tetsu and the kids as they dodge bullets fired from Japanese warplanes on their way to the coast, where they hope to catch a boat across the strait that separates these 2 islands. And the conditions for this family only gets worse when they get to Hokkaido, because what little food there is has been driven up by the black market. The price of it has been driven up by the black market, and they can't afford to pay for it. So they're broken and starving. Now, fast forward 10 years, Tetsu tells Shujiro, now played by, Shujiro's the younger son, now played by Masato Sakai. I've never seen him before, so I don't know what he's been in. She tells him to leave her and go make a life for himself.
Right.
Now fast forward again, this time to 1971, and Shujiro is now married to Mari. She's the daughter of a wealthy Japanese man who made his fortune creating a chain of hot dog restaurants in the U.S. And Shujiro has just opened the company's bridgehead store in Sapporo on the eve of the 1972 Winter Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And the city is busily gearing up for what they hope will be an onslaught of foreign tourists. And he hopes these tourists and the Japanese will want to eat their American-style hot dogs.
Okay.
But unfortunately, Shujiro doesn't have his father-in-law's business acumen.
Mm-hmm.
And at the worst possible moment for him, he gets word that his mother, who he hasn't seen in 15 years, is living in poverty in Abashiri. This is the coastal town on the northeast side of Hokkaido, where they ended up living. She's living in abject poverty. And so he decides at this terrible time for him that he's going to go up there and get her and bring her back.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
when he gets there, he finds that she's really in worse shape than he imagined. But he
Physically
does
or mentally?
mentally.
Okay.
But he does bring her back, and somehow the three, he and his wife and his mother, they somehow manage together. But it's not a good situation. So he decides that he's going to take her on a road trip back to Abashiri and back to the northern part, to a town called Wakanai, which is on the northern tip of Hokkaido. And maybe all the by going back there, she'll find some resolution in these horrible memories that she's having of that horrible time back in 1945 when they fled there. And it seems to be going well, but then suddenly she disappears and he has to figure out where she went to.
Oh, I see.
So that's what this film's all about. Now, if this movie would have been a book, I could see that it would have been interesting reading, because it is sort of this sweeping storyline, and the film, it's interesting because of the historical aspect. But the story is interesting because of the historical aspect. But this film is achingly tedious. I'm sorry to say, with its over the top melodramatic performances by the film's two leads, who are woefully miscast. And as well, the direction is really clumsy. Now, apparently, this is the actress Yoshinaga's 120th film. So she's had a lot of experience. She's had an amazing career. And I have great respect for the woman and for her ability. But there is a vast difference between quantity and quality. And
true. That's true.
And honestly, she's just too old to play this part, because at the very worst, Tetsu in 1971 would be 60. Yoshinaga, the actress, is 73. Now, you can put a ton of makeup on this woman, but you can't hide the fact that she's not 60. She doesn't look 60.
Right.
To make matters worse, she's also in the scenes in 1945 when she's supposed to be about 30. And, and
not good.
Not good. And the actor Hoshi, what's his name? Abe. What's his name? Hiroshi Abe is 21 years younger than her, and he's playing her husband. Right? It just doesn't work. So I'm sorry. I have tremendous respect for her, but she was the wrong actress for this role. So that was a mistake. I think even worse is the actor Sakai, who's playing her son, grown up. He has one facial expression throughout, and that is of somebody who's been sucking on a bunch of lemons. He's got these pursed lips. Just horrible, horrible performance. So I say the performances are bad. The direction is so clumsy. And this is directed by the same guy who did this wonderful Oscar-winning film a few years back called Departures. Did you ever see about this film, Departures? No. It was about a funeral. A really, really good film. Oh my God, this is a horrible film. So, and there's a lot I can say about this film, but I don't want to waste people's time.
Right. So Sakura, we strike that off the list.
Just avoid with cost. So the next film I'm going to talk about is a film that actually opened last week, but I didn't see it until last Thursday, so I couldn't talk about it.
Yes.
Called The Darkest Minds.
Oh.
Which isn't very dark, actually. No, it's not for you. Well, you're not a young adult, I'm sorry to say. This is a young adult film. We had a lot of tremendous success with young adult films like Harry Potter and the Twilight Saga and the Hunger Games. Lately, young adult films seem to have tailed off in their appeal. The Divergent series, it took in $765 million off of a combined budget of $305 million, so that's not bad, because they have to earn at least double in order to break even.
Right.
So that's not bad. So they did do well, but the third film only grossed half of what the second film did. And The Maze Runner, which is another YA film, did much better, got about $1 billion in revenue off of 157 million combined budget. But even that third film didn't do very well. Now we have The Darkest Minds. It's based on a 2012 novel by Alexander Bracken, who's quite young, I understand, of the same name. If this movie doesn't kill off the YA genre, nothing will. This is really a horrible, I don't want to say it's not a horrible film, it's a lousy film. Really, really poor film. Just a dumb story, badly directed, badly acted. The story is, it's a mystery disease has affected the children of the United States. It kills off quite quickly 90% of them who are under the age of 18. And the ones who have survived seem to have gained paranormal powers ranging from high intelligence to mind control. Now, the President of the United States, played by Bradley Whitford, who people would know from TV's West Wing, his own son is also a survivor, and he orders that the kids be sent to what are essentially concentration camps. And the kids who score high on a color-coded psionic scale, i.e. the ones who can breathe fire now and do mind control, they're immediately sent to their deaths, whereas the brainiacs and the levitators are given menial tasks to keep them submissive. Now, 10-year-old Ruby Daly, played by Amanda Stenberg, who was also in the Hunger Games, she was one such child who scored high on this scale, but she uses her power to trick the camp doctor into scoring her lower down so they don't kill her. Fast forward 10 years, the government has figured out who she really or what she's capable of, and with the help of a sympathetic doctor, she escapes the camp and ultimately meets up with 3 other runaways, led by the dashing Liam Stewart, played by Harris Dickinson. I've never seen him before. He's a British kid, but does a good American accent. The 4 kids embark on a road trip to find a safe haven for the other psionic children called East River. They elude a bounty hunter named Lady Jane, played by Gwendolyn Christie from TV's Game of Thrones. Horrible role for her. And a paramilitary rebel group of telekinetic kids organized by that sympathetic doctor and her boyfriend. Now, right from the point where the kids are incarcerated, you don't have to be a genius to figure out where this story is going, right? This is basically Junior X-Men. With not a lot of variety, because there's only 5 different types of quote-unquote mutations. So it's something we've already seen before, and it's not even as good as what we've seen before.
Right.
So it's like, ugh. Also, the film is 104 minutes long, and nothing happens for the first hour. I know that because I looked at my watch and I thought, well, is this movie? There's only 30 minutes left in this movie, and nothing's happened. Right. So, and something's going to happen. So it's just like the pacing is completely messed up. The storyline is boring. The acting, it's fine. The young woman, Amanda Stenberg, I think she was quite good, but she's better than this movie. So hopefully, we'll see her in other things. Apparently, a sequel has been optioned, but this film is bombing at the box office for very good reasons. It's garbage.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
No sequels.
So don't waste your time on The Darkest Minds. All right.
Okay.
So now, third film.
Third film.
Third film. My God, a lot's happening. Third film, another film opening today called Mile 22, getting a lot of press. If you're standing waiting for an MTR train, you're probably seeing these big posters. Right. It stars Mark Wahlberg, and he's paired again with his director of choice and vice versa, Peter Berg. And the 3 of them, this is their 4th film together. They've done Lone Survivor, Deepwater Horizon, Patriots Day, and this one, Mile 22. They have another one they have, I think, 2 films. One they're currently working on, another one that's still in development. So they do like working together. Unfortunately, it hasn't been very successful for them financially because these films don't do well at the box office. Lone Survivor actually did make a profit, but Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day didn't. So I don't, you'd think these guys would say, "Hey, it's not working. Maybe we shouldn't be together. Maybe we need to tweak our little formula here." But for some reason, Hollywood keeps throwing cash in their way, and they keep making films. Now, in Mile 22, Wahlberg plays a fellow named James Silva. He's the leader of an American Black Ops strike team. And as the story opens, they find a load of a cache of cesium-139, which apparently is highly toxic, and in a Russian FSB safe house somewhere in suburban USA, and they find most of it. They don't find all of it. Now, fast forward 18 months, And oh, hi, Cousin Gloria. She's watching from Dundas, Ontario.
Wow.
Isn't that nice of her?
Yeah,
What time
that's
is it?
really
It's 10 to
cool.
9 at night. Yeah. So fast forward 18 months, and Silva and his number two, Alice Carr, played by Lauren Cohen, who's in TV's The Walking Dead, which I've never seen. Doesn't interest me. Zombies don't interest me at all. They are, for some reason, at the American Embassy in that well-known city of Indokar, in that well-known country of Southeast Asia.
Okay.
You know, and I'm watching this going, what were the screenwriters thinking? You know, I mean, it says Indokar, Southeast Asia. I mean, what? You know, okay, maybe they don't want to say Jakarta, Indonesia, but actually it's filmed in Colombia, but it's supposed to be Jakarta, Indonesia. Maybe they didn't want to say it, so they come up with this hokey name of Indokar. With 2 R's, by the way, Southeast Asia. Now, as luck and bad scriptwriting would have it, Carr's asset, Southeast Asia, I can't even call him Indonesian, Southeast Asian Special Forces Officer Lee Noor, played by Indonesian actor Iko Uwais, who was in the Raid 2. He surrenders at the embassy while they're there, and he offers the team an encrypted disk that contains information on that still missing cesium in exchange for safe passage to America. Now, the Silva, Wahlberg's character, and his boss, James Bishop, who's played by the wonderful John Malkovich, they don't know whether to believe him or not, but when 2 assassins break into the embassy and try to kill this officer and the foreign minister of that Southeast Asian unnamed country, or whatever the country is called, comes in and says, he's a low-level disgruntled cop. Then they start thinking, okay, maybe he does have something. Maybe we do need to protect him. So thus begins the team's 22-mile journey from the embassy to the airfield, dodging bullets and bombs the whole way.
Hence mile 22.
Hence mile 22.
Right.
Now, as I was watching this film, I was wondering, why doesn't this film work? Because on the surface, the stories should be okay. And although we've seen this sort of thing, near real-time filming, because, it's a 90-minute story filmed that takes place over 60 minutes. So, it's almost real-time. And it's a bunch of bad guys trying to shoot their way through wave after wave, or good guys shooting their way through wave after wave of bad guys onto whatever meets them at the other end. Freedom meets them at the other end. So, it's not an original idea, but it's a good idea. Where this film fails is that the director, Peter Berg, doesn't understand that less is more. That he's into bombs going off. He's into pyrotechnics, explosions. Okay, we get it. That's his thing. But where this film should be good is the stunt choreography. You have Iko Uwais, who is a martial artist. He's a trained martial artist. And on he's only got 2 fight scenes. On these fight scenes, this film is edited to death. So it's like, and unfortunately, this is radio, so you can't see it. Although people who are watching me, it's like, it's all these quick cuts,
Right.
rather than pan the camera back a little bit, and show a whole scene. Sort of like John Wick did, sort of like Atomic Blonde did. Show us the whole scene from beginning to end.
Right.
Don't do quick cuts of, like sort of Jackie Chan moves, of, chop, 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 chop.
Right.
Do you understand what it's saying?
Yeah. I do.
So really bad. That the second problem was the writing. Indokar, Southeast Asia. Again, I don't know what they were thinking. But even the writing of the characters. We're told in the opening credits that Mark Wahlberg's character is a child savant with anger issues. And over the course of the story, his colleagues remind us how intelligent he is. But we don't see any evidence that he's intelligent. All we see is that he's a fast-talking a-hole with an attitude. So it doesn't work. And you have, there's another character who's played by WWE champion Ronda Rousey. I'm not into the the wrestling. You would think she's a wrestler. Let her do some stunts. She does nothing. She's completely wasted in this film. So there's so much more I can talk about this film, but basically I hated it. It's a horrible film. Don't go see it.
Okay. Well, we're not doing so well. How about Crazy Rich Asians?
Crazy Rich
You went to
Asians.
see it last night.
I
is
went
that
to
right?
see it last night. It opens today.
Mm.
I actually like this film, I gotta say.
Oh,
You know, it's
okay.
yeah, I saved the best for last.
Okay.
It's been getting tremendous hype in in America. I think it's playing in Canada too. It hasn't played in England yet,
Right.
and it opens here today. And it's based on the 2013 book of the same name by Singaporean American Kevin Kwan, who, by the way, as of yesterday, is a wanted man in Singapore for defaulting on his obligation to serve compulsory military service. He dodged the service.
Oh, no.
So apparently the Singaporean authorities are after him as of yesterday. So
Wow, that's a good...
very interesting film. Now, it's the story of Singaporean Nick Young, played by Henry Golding. People would know, people here would know him because I think he was on like that Asian MTV for a long time. He's basically a TV personality. He is apparently a history professor at NYU, though we don't know it, but the synopsis says that he is. And Chinese-American Rachel Chu, played by Constance Wu, who's on TV's Fresh Off the Boat, which I've never seen, and she's an economics professor at the same university. They've been dating for about a year. She doesn't know that he's rich. Not only does she not know that he's rich, she doesn't know that he's mega rich.
What a surprise.
Yeah, his family is the wealthiest family in the island state, and he's sort of forgot to tell her that, and he's their only son. So, yeah, he's super rich. Now, he decides that he's the best man at his best friend's wedding in Singapore, and he says, oh, why don't you come to Singapore to the wedding, and you get to meet my family. So she doesn't realize till she's on the plane just how rich he is, and even when he tells her, she still doesn't realize how rich he is until she gets there and meets his mother, played by Michelle Yeoh, who doesn't like this girl at all because she's not rich and she's American. She's not Asian enough. She's not crazy enough,
and she'll never be enough.
And she'll never be enough. And then there's all of the bride-to-be's girlfriends who are catty. And so it's the whole story about will they stay together? Won't they stay together? And of course, it's a rom-com, so you know what's going to happen. I don't need to tell you. So it's in terms of where the story goes, it is very predictable. But it's fun. I got to say, it's fun. It's done very, very well. The acting is good. It's really over-the-top acting. I call it Crazy Bitchy Asians or Sex in the Asian City because it's sort of an Asian version of Sex in the City. But it's got fabulous costumes, lots of jewelry, lots of bling. It's a fun film. It's not a film you're gonna think very long and hard about, but it is fun. It is enjoyable. And the Singapore Tourism Board must be rubbing their hands together in glee because the city comes across as absolutely perfect. Perfect. And you get to see lots
with an American accent.
Yeah. With a lot of shots of the Sands Hotel and all the beautiful buildings in Singapore. Yes. In terms of who I really like, there's Awkwafina, who plays Rachel's girlfriend, who's she is the best part of the film. There's a Filipino-Chinese actor by the name of Nico Santos. He plays a cousin of Nick's, and there's Malaysian-Chinese stand-up comedian Ronnie Cheng, who plays another cousin. I thought they were the really good parts of the film. So I really enjoyed it. Go see it. It's not a deep film. But it is a fun film. So that's the choice.
Comedy drama.
No, well, barely drama, but romantic comedy. Go see it. That's the film you should see this week. Forget about all the other ones. They're garbage.
Well, thank you very much, Howard. That's good to know. Well, Crazy Rich Asians, the film.